Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as was the vast majority of crypto and finance. And guys, like I said in my previous video from today, things are heating up, things are getting interesting, and I think that we need to go back in time a little bit. So first and foremost, let's start off with June 19th. So JPMorgan report, Hinman documents an SEC Ripple case strengthen Ether. What a wild statement, right? Like, this is a pretty crazy statement. Now, the direct quote here was the speech acknowledges that there is another category. It is not a security because there is no controlling group, at least in the Howey test, yet there may be a need for regulation to protect purchasers. Interesting. Down here, the bank said that a new other category could be introduced for Ether and other cryptocurrencies that are decentralized enough to avoid being classified as securities. The question is, could Ethereum truly be decentralized? Because we even know with the proof of stake move that it is not decentralized. When it comes to XRP, we know XRP is one of the most decentralized tokens in the space. A lot of people bring up the idea of the escrow, but those people that bring up the escrow don't even understand the mechanism behind the escrow. But a lot of people were questioning the Ether status around the Hinman documents, what's going to happen with it. They came out, right? We got confirmation of what we needed to get confirmed. There wasn't really anything else besides that. But this statement by JPMorgan is pretty wild that these documents actually strengthen Ethereum. Fast forward to just recently, and we do know that JPMorgan said that Ethereum has been disappointing since its Shanghai upgrade. Now, a lot of people went over on Twitter to really kind of say, well, are they going to flip to XRP now? Because a lot of people were rumored, that, oh, BlackRock is buying XRP now. They're done with, Bitcoin. And now it's, JPMorgan's going to use XRP. I just don't necessarily think that that is the case. But outside of this got me thinking. And what got me really thinking was a few of the individuals from the community. In fact, Lerziet, Mr. Huber, posted this. We know for a fact that JPMorgan was involved through Joseph Lubin in the Ethereum ICO. JPMorgan was building on Ethereum as early as 2015. JPMorgan had exchanged hundreds of emails with the SEC about Ripple between 2018 and 2020, which, by the way, we know that JPMorgan recently lost millions and millions of emails, and they were fined. I think it was like $4 million, something like that. It wasn't anything to really kind of write home about, but we know that JPMorgan has been corrupt. They've been hiding documents. They've been hiding a lot of information. This is one of the biggest banks in the US and technically in the world, yet we really don't see anything from JPMorgan in terms of information. A lot of it gets hidden. A lot of people get paid off. There's a lot of corruption. But nonetheless, JPMorgan's email provider accidentally deleted several million emails from between 2018 and 2020. JPMorgan is the main investor in Consensus. JPMorgan is a name which Vitalik Buterin's father uses for Joseph Lubin. JPMorgan is Ripple's biggest competitor. This is where things get very, very interesting, because a lot of people for the longest time said JPMorgan is scared of Ripple. JPMorgan is scared of XRP. And again, we bring up the idea of like Ethereum and XRP, how XRP was the number 2 asset for a while, and then all of a sudden the lawsuit comes in place. Ethereum flips it. Ethereum becomes one of the strongest movers in the space. We've talked about it, right? Now, outside of this, we also see from Digital Asset Buy timeline 2023, Ethereum founders in the offices of A16Z. 2014, A16Z attends Bitcoin conference. Ethereum founders announce ICO. 2014, ETH ICO occurs / whales are disguised. 2018, Jay Clayton meets with A16Z. VCWG put in motion. 2018, Hinman gives ETH free pass speech. 2021, Hinman joins A16Z. You can't make this stuff up. Like, for the longest time, there's been corruption brewing in the back end of things. Between JPMorgan, some of the biggest incumbents around, the traditional financial space, it really kind of proves to you why Ethereum got the free pass, why Ripple and XRP were targeted. Outside of this, we also know why, Ethereum got the free pass, the individuals tied to it, and what those individuals did after the free pass was put out. Again, A16Z is a big player, right? We know this. But listen closely to this video.
I remember, Vitalik, when, most people don't know this, but you and a group that became Blockstream, another group that became Colored Coins, all came into A16Z in 2013 when me and Dixon were general partners there, right? And, I remember asking, who's the founder? And everybody raised their hands at the same time. And I was like, all right, that's going to be, there's going to be some fission events here. There's going to be some splitting and rejoining, and which is what happened, some recombination. And then at the Bitcoin conference in, I think, 2014, we all had that conversation out on it was a patio or a lunch thing, and the number of co-founders had now dropped to like 7 or something like that. So it was like a smaller number, but still N.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about the funding model. So we will have a fundraiser for 2 months starting February 1st. It will be available at funds.ethereum.org. So the idea is that part of the initial issuance will be 1,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin, or up to 2,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin if you get in early to compensate for the increased risk.
A person can buy from any number of different identities. We may limit the unit size of a sale.
And by the way, this is where you have Joseph Lubin talking about how individuals can buy Ether in the form of different identities, meaning the same person can hold larger amounts of Ether in different identities. That doesn't change anything. It still is the idea of, guess what? You have these individuals holding much larger percentages of Ether than documented, which means, guess what? It's no longer decentralized, it's centralized.
Just to make it easier to disguise.
Then, after talking to Grunfest in a fireside chat at the Stanford campus, made his way over to see Andreessen the next morning. And this is the part that now not a lot of people know. And he invited Chris Dixon to round up the industry players. Andreessen, I've been representing Andreessen in all of their crypto investments since the beginning, and so I got the chance to be the one to write all that stuff. So
yeah, and this is where they launched the largest crypto fund ever at 2.2 billion. Their biggest holding was at that time, I believe, Ethereum, I'm pretty sure. And again, they named one of the biggest advisors, Bill Hinman. You can't make this stuff up. And this is also why Steven Neryoff was going full out over on Twitter, really kind of quoting that video that you just seen, this one, saying like, listen, this is all out there now in the open on how Ethereum, they basically turned the blind eye to it, and you could see why. Over here, by the way, we recently seen that XRP and Dogecoin and a few other tokens were removed from the green list in New York. At the same time that Citi and JPMorgan, they just announced deposit tokens, their own tokens. I bet this doesn't have anything to do with this at all, right? That's what most people will say, but at the end of the day, like, most people would have said, no, like, Ripple is being targeted because Ripple was selling XRP in the open market. That's why they got targeted. It's not because, for the longest time, JPMorgan has been working with Ethereum. Ethereum is essentially JPMorgan's chosen one, if you will. This is the incumbent banking's chosen one. Every single major entity out there is working on a private technology built upon Ethereum. Ethereum, for the longest time, has been the chosen one. I know that we say Ripple and XRP were chosen by the elite organizations and things like that. And trust me, Ripple has onboarded tons of institutional clients, but it's not the way that JPMorgan is using Ethereum, right? For the longest time, outside of what Ripple was doing, like the XRP ledger didn't really see a lot of institutional grade adoption. It still hasn't. right? Only Ripple has. And Ripple as a company and XRP as a token, it's completely different. But outside of this, we already know all of the major connections. We know this because of individuals like Utility Theory, XX 1133, 1221, 11. There's a ton of players here. You guys do see all of them being tagged here. But we know all of these connections. And by the way, this is a live mind map. You guys can go and check this out. Like, these are the connections of global events that need an investigation. We're talking FTX, the SEC government, XRP lawsuit, Hinman, Clayton, all of them. And even all of the connections back to Ethereum, well, guess what? They're laid out on this mind map. You cannot make this up. And here you guys even have the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, all the connections down the list, even to Charles Hoskinson himself. And it goes on and on and on. At the end of the day, right, like, we need to put a spotlight on the individuals, first off, that are doing all of the research around this, but then also we need to put a spotlight on the information, and we need an investigation into these individuals. The problem is that a lot of the individuals tied to this are higher up on the food chain. We're talking about regulators. We're talking about government officials. I mean, the people that are tied to this are substantial names. And usually when you have that, well, guess what? That's where problems come into place where, you know, we probably won't see an investigation because they have to protect them. And even A16Z, you guys do see it there in orange. It's pretty clear. That's connected back to all of the individuals tied to the regulatory, focused attacks on the space. It's focused back on, Gary Gensler, even FTX, Bill Hinman, you name it. I mean, you seriously can't make this stuff up. And outside of this is also why a lot of the SEC officials, well, they have like $50 million plus net worths, $100 million plus networks like Gary Gensler. I mean, where do you think all that money comes from? And a lot of people think that JPMorgan had to do with Mt. Gox, Mt. Gox, right? Nerd Nation Unboxed posted this over on Twitter. We do see in 2013, JPMorgan developed the Bitcoin trading app. In 2014, Mt. Gox was hacked. And Charles knew JPMorgan was already a crypto player back then. How did he know? And here we have y'all seen this video? I didn't know JPMorgan had their own app developed to trade Bitcoin. They've been in the game since 2013. They beat all of the other players to crypto. Also note that Charles says in the beginning when someone asked if Jamie Dimon said what he said to get a good entry point. And check this out.
Do you think Jamie Dimon did what he did to get a better entry point into Bitcoin?
They're already in, man.
Is it a bullish signal? Is the question.
I do know for a fact that his London traders, remember he said in his statement that he would fire anybody who trades Bitcoin in his desk. I do know for a fact that somebody developed an app for JPMorgan traders specifically back in 2013 to trade Bitcoin. And I guess that some of these engineers and code writers over here would understand this better, but I believe they made it in XLS or something like that because their actual browser was being monitored by their bosses. So they were trading Bitcoin, and there was a special exception for Max Kaiser because their algorithm was trading off Bitcoin mentions on Twitter. And at that time in 2013, it wasn't a big story. Nobody really big and no media was covering it. And anytime Max would tweet about Bitcoin, the price would go berserk, and they would have to leave their trading desk at JPMorgan and go over and shut down their app that had been developed. So I know they had a sophisticated app developed that couldn't deal with Max Kaiser.
So there you guys have a few of the insights there. And we actually know that what she said with Jamie Dimon saying they'll fire anyone that's holding Bitcoin that's working at JP Morgan, we actually know that statement was utilized as a tactic to manipulate the market for JP Morgan to buy more Bitcoin. We actually know that they've been manipulating this market for a very long time and buying up cheap Bitcoin. This is also why we say hey, they are shaking you out so that they can buy your coins at a lot cheaper prices. We know that this is a fact. But also over here from Digital Asset Buy, we know JP Morgan banked Mt. Gox. Does anyone know who banked FTX? Again, this is a thing that we have been following for a while. A lot of the individuals from this space have been tying FTX back to some substantial names. We don't know who specifically banked FTX, but it would not surprise me if it was an incumbent banker. But here we have Mt. Gox, simplify your life with cash deposits. This is a capture from going all the way back to November of 2011, November 26, 2011. This was around, I guess, October 22nd, around 2011. What do you see? With over 1,500 branches, Chase is an ideal partner for Mt. Gox in the USA. So again, we already know that JPMorgan was there during that time. Would not surprise me if these incumbents are shaking people out, being the ones behind a lot of the collapses, because it is right up their alley. Over here, we also do see from Nerd Nation on Box, which, by the way, shout out to Nerd Nation on Box, Digital Asset Investor, Utility Theory, and many of the other individuals in this video, including Lerziet. We see blockchain and crypto was designed to remove the middleman, banks, so JPMorgan positioned themselves in Ethereum and purchased in big disguised whale to try and take over the space, then attack the competition by manipulation and by using their connections. They did it. ETHgate, the secret disclosed, JPMorgan owns critical Ethereum infrastructure. We know that JPMorgan was the name behind nearly all of this. So when you look at what Ripple is trying to do, when you look at XRP and you look at all these people from the space attacking it, it really kind of makes you question their position as well and where they're coming from. At the end of the day, listen, if you are in crypto, if you have been following crypto for a very, very long time, then you know how sleazy these incumbent bankers are in their suits and what lengths they will go to stop out anyone undercutting them and taking their business. These are extremely greedy individuals that are coming from very greedy banking branches. And at the end of the day, they want to corner the market. And by the way, JPMorgan, we know that JPMorgan is working closely with regulators in this space and outside of this space, because guess what? They took over 10% of the US deposits. They were buying up banks, collapsing this year, and that should never be allowed. They are running a monopoly system around the banking sector, which is, again, another major reason why we need to focus heavily on the corruption, the manipulation. Again, when we look at JPMorgan, a lot of people think that, hey, they will never be targeted, they will never be investigated. And I do fear that that very well might possibly be the case, because we already know that they destroyed massive amounts of evidence and they got away with it. They just paid the regulators off. Again, this is a bank that has unlimited potential in terms of what they can pay. So with that in mind, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.